In Bungie's weekly blog post, they discuss scaling changes that are coming in Season 3. Here's what they said. One thing we're changing up at the beginning of Season 3 is how your power level will affect the enemies you face. As you tackle a new campaign and start taking on activities above your current power level, you may find that villains you face put up more of a fight. The main goals from this tuning pass are to provide a more challenging experience for players when they take on higher leveled activities. This should make power progression and acquisition more meaningful, reinforce and reward the energy type matching gameplay, and provide opportunities for our master PvEers to demonstrate the prowess at the highest levels. Here's how we're going to tackle this. 1. Change our outgoing player damage scaling versus higher level combatants to be steeper, making them more difficult, similar to Destiny 1. As a result, higher level combatants will take longer to kill than they currently do, but if you're at or above their level, you can still melt them. 2. Extend our outgoing and incoming damage scaling from capping at a 40 power level delta to a 50 power level delta. Currently in Destiny 2, our scaling only affects the difficulty of combatants up to 40 power levels above the player before plateauing. Increasing this to 50 power levels adds a little more room for players to show off how badass they really are. And 3, when combatants are 50 power levels or higher above the player, they will be immune and display a double question mark icon on their nameplate. Now them saying this opens the door for a discussion because I'm interested to see how the damage scaling will change overall in Destiny 2 come this next pass they're going to make. Now as I said, in the TWAB they stated the following. Currently in Destiny 2, our scaling only affects the difficulty of combatants up to 40 power levels above the player before plateauing. Now this makes sense. The highest handicap you could set is 45 in the Prestige Nightfall, and just in case there's some sort of confusion, the Prestige Nightfall is a 330 activity, we are 335, so we are 40 power levels below the enemy at max handicap. Right now, the way scaling works is for the first 5 levels of the handicap you won't see any change, and this is simply because you are at or above the enemy's power level. Now this frustrates me for other reasons because I feel that the scaling should reverse when we are at or above an enemy's level, and something I'll discuss later in the video, but let's continue talking about scaling as it stands now. As you progress through the handicap settings, you begin to see a decrease in damage. This decrease begins at a 6 power handicap, but at a 10 power level handicap, or 5 under the enemy assuming your max power level, you do 9.29% less damage for body shots and 9.17% less damage for headshots. At a 20 power level handicap, 15 under the enemy, this jumps to 23.5% less damage to the body and 23.71% less damage to the head. If you continue to 30, it jumps to 32.14% less damage, and by the time you reach a 40 handicap or 35 power levels under the enemy, it's at 36.43% less damage. Now to anyone versed in math, graphs, or understand how all this works, you notice it ramped up to 10% being just 5 levels under the enemy, and then instantly started to slow down at an exponential rate, with that scaling only going up 13% more at 15 under the enemy, then to only a 9% additional penalty at 25 under, and only 4% more of a penalty at 35 under the enemy. So as I stated earlier in the video, I'm interested to see how they adjust the scaling when they bump the power delta from 40 under to 50 under. And my interest is primarily due to what happens when you are 36 power levels under the enemy and onward. Because at 36 power levels under the enemy, it is only 0.04% less damage dealt than that of 35. At 37, it's only 0.22% less damage than that of 36, and this continues to 40 power levels under, which is only 1.15% less damage than that of being 35 under. There is only a 1.15% difference between being 35 under the enemy and being 40 under the enemy. So as it stands, unless there are some drastic scaling changes that are going to occur to the power delta, being 35 under the enemy and being 50 under the enemy will feel no more difficult to the player, which has its benefits, but primarily has its downfalls. But before jumping the gun and making assumptions about how good or bad this is going to be, with this video I'm simply putting out that information and waiting to see where it goes. Now I also should have mentioned this earlier in the video, but all these numbers come from using a 335 Nightshade at power level 335 in this week's Prestige Nightfall, which happens to be the Tree of Probabilities. And how I tested these numbers is I would join the Nightfall, shoot the enemies at point blank range, and document a single bullet's worth of damage to the body and a single bullet's worth of damage to the head. I would then leave the game, increase the handicap by 1, and repeat the process. I did this for all 45 handicap values in order to generate these percentages and numbers that I've been spewing at you. Also, Also, to clarify the difference between precision damage and body damage when it comes to some of the percentages that I listed, this is due to the fact that Bungie does what I call background rounding to damage values. What this means is that on screen you will see 88 damage, but there is a chance that it's, for example, 88.4 and it was rounded down. So any value, in this example, between 88.4 and 87.5 damage would show on the screen as just simply 88 damage. So this creates discrepancies for headshot multipliers, but won't make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things. I'm just clarifying so you guys know. So now you may be wondering how this is a feedback video, and I want to remind you how I mentioned that regardless if you are equal power level or higher in power level than that of the enemy, you will still do the same flat amount of damage. And because of this, I feel that we never feel like we're getting stronger as a Guardian, but instead we just approach a point where we are equally as strong as the enemy, and I personally think this is a major flaw. What I'd like to see for damage scaling when the player is above an enemy is essentially a reversal of what happens when we're under the enemy. As I stated, as we decrease in power level, when we match the enemy, we have no handicap, and then we move towards a max cap of 37.58% damage reduction, and we do that at a exponential rate. For my test, as I said, I used a 335 Nightshade at 335 power, and that weapon did a base damage of 140 to the body and 447 to the head for a single bullet. And when you apply a 5 power level handicap, you do the same damage, because both the enemy and us, the player, are at 330 power. So between 335 at no handicap and 330 at a 5 handicap, with the Nightshade we do 140 to the body and 447 to the head. Doesn't matter that we're 5 over. However, once at a 6 power level handicap, which puts us at power level 329, our damage is reduced by 2.14% to the body and 1.79% to the head. What I feel should happen when we gain power levels on the enemy is the opposite of what happens when we lose them. What I think should happen is when we are 331 versus a 330 enemy, we should do 2.14% more damage. When we're at 332 versus 330 enemies, we should do 3.57% more damage. At 333 versus 330 enemies, we should do 5.71% more damage. At 334 versus 330, it should be 7.14% more damage, and at 335, the current max power level versus 330s, we should do 9.29% more damage. And if you're wondering where these numbers came from, this is the exact opposite of what happens if we are 5 under, or 4 under, or 3 under, or 2 under, or matching. Basically, the debuffs we get to our damage when we're 1 under should be the equivalent buff to when we're 1 over. And at 335, the current max power level versus 330s, we should do 9.29% more damage. The most viewed video on my channel was on the topic of legendary kinetic weapon mods, where a common comment was, why do I want 5 more power levels from the mod? Who cares? And those people were and are absolutely correct, because being matched or above an enemy makes no difference in Destiny 2. But if scaling worked the same way when above an enemy's power level as it does when below an enemy, we'd see the difference. Right now, we do 140 to the body and 447 to the head. By scaling equally in the opposite direction, as I'm suggesting, we'd be doing 153 to the body and 489 to the head for just being 5 levels above the enemy. Now, while this is interjecting and pushing my ideas on, I want to be able to do the normal Nightfall, a 270 activity at 335, and do 37.58% more damage than normal to that enemy, because that's what the reduction is on the opposite side of the spectrum. I'm 65 levels stronger than that enemy, and I don't quite understand why I don't feel stronger. If I do less damage to an enemy stronger than me, then why can't I do more damage to an enemy weaker than me? Let me do 192 damage per bullet instead of 140 to the body, and let me do 614 damage per bullet instead of 447 to the head. This is what I want to see in Destiny 2. Take your current Delta system and how you scale us when we're under it and apply it to being over. Let us feel powerful as Guardians. I want my power level to live up to its name and make me feel powerful. Now, of course, I could go deeper and get into the meta game of handicaps and power level and talk about how you can get 1.7 times more points by simply applying a 5 handicap for no damage penalty, but that's a separate video topic that's better suited for when Season 3 is here and the new Delta is shifted to 50 from 40. But for now, I think I provided my feedback while also providing information on damage scaling, while also kind of interjecting the how I'd fix it thing. If I was going to provide feedback and follow the way that the devs have said that they want their feedback, I'm going to simply say this. If we're stronger than an enemy, let us feel like we're stronger than an enemy. Regardless, guys, let me know what you think about damage scaling in its current state, and of course, when the new Delta comes out, I will of course test it and give you guys a video on that as well. Also, out of the norm, this is not something I normally do, but I usually keep my spreadsheets and all my data to myself. I've actually done this since the very beginning of Destiny, and I've done it for all of Destiny 2, but what I'm going to do for this video and onwards is I'm just going to create a master spreadsheet that has all of the information that I've ever used for a video and make it available to you guys. So if you guys want to take a look at all these numbers, whether it be from past projects like the loot from 100 public events, or the 10,000 strike tokens, the multiple thousands of gunsmith materials, the 20,000 or whatever it was that I got sent, the numbers from this, every bit of math that I've ever done for Destiny is now available to you guys in the description. You guys obviously can't edit it, but at least you guys can share it around if you want to. And if you found this video interesting, share it as well. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that like button, and if you are new here, be sure to subscribe. I've got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. I'm back into this YouTube grind. I'm enjoying it again, and I hope you're looking forward to the content that's coming out soon. Check out all the links in the description. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Multilux community Discord. We're announcing something very soon. Again, has nothing to do with my channel, but I am playing a huge role in it. And if you guys like, if you like video games and you like competitive video games, you might like what we're doing. So join the Discord. Find out what's going on with that. Or don't. Do whatever you want. Leave comments, hit a like, don't hit a like, subscribe, don't subscribe. I don't really care. I just appreciate you guys still supporting me even though I was gone for a month. But I posted 2 videos in like 4 days. That's insane for me. I know, it's crazy. Regardless, guys, thank you for support. I'm gonna get out of here. Say my name is Matt, and I'll see you guys next time.